The Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League is one of America's oldest baseball leagues. Previously known as the City Amateur League and the City Independent Twilight League, in the 1910s and the 1920s, the league reorganized in the summer of 1929. Local sporting goods store owner Harry N. Anderson of Hartford was the league's organizer and first president. The best amateur ball players in the Greater Hartford area converged on Colt Park during the summer. In addition to the Hartford Twilight League, the Times Twilight League, Industrial League, Insurance League, Public Service League, and the Catholic League also competed at that time. It was the golden era of baseball, when games served as entertainment for thousands of local fans. The most prolific franchise in the early years of the Hartford Twilight League was the Savit Gems, sponsored and organized by Bill Savit of Savit Jewelers on Asylum Street. Savit and his Gems fielded some of the top ball players in Connecticut for 2 decades. The Gems began as 3-time winners of the Hartford Twilight League from 1930 to 1932. Walter Berg was the club's ace pitcher, Al Hubband, their heavy hitter, and George Dixon, their wiry third baseman. The Savit Gems went on to become a formidable independent club, known throughout New England as generous hosts to Major League and Negro League teams at Hartford's Buckley Stadium. The Holy Name Nine also became an outstanding franchise in their own right during the 1930s. The Names were the first Hartford Twilight League team to advance players into professional baseball. A double-play duo, Bert Meisner and Pete Capura, signed with the Hartford Senators of the Eastern League in 1931. Holy Name's first baseman, Jigger Farrell, was a natural batsman who became a mainstay player-manager for the Savit Gems throughout their semi-professional years. Other successful teams in the early years of the Twilight League were named Czech Bread, Mahoney's Service, Mayflower Sales, and Home Circle. A left-handed hurler named Peter Naktenis of the Mayflower Sales Club was the first Hartford Twilight League player to reach the major leagues. In 1936, the Hartford Public High School and Duke University graduate signed with Connie Mack's Philadelphia Athletics. Meanwhile, another pitcher, Johnny Schoolboy Taylor, played for the Home Circle team. Taylor, a Buckley High School alumnus, was scouted by the New York Yankees, but ultimately denied a contract due to racial discrimination. After 2 seasons in the Hartford Twilight League, Taylor signed with the New York Cubans of the Negro National League in 1935. A few years later, in a Negro League All-Star game at the Polo Grounds, Taylor threw a no-hitter against legendary ace Satchel Paige. Johnny Taylor later signed to pitch for the Hartford Chiefs of the Boston Braves organization in 1949, making him Hartford's first professional black athlete. In 1937, the Hartford Twilight League split into 2 leagues, the East Hartford Twilight League and the Central Connecticut Twilight League. During World War II, the Savit Gems entertained Hartford fans with grand events and benefit games at Buckley Stadium. On September 29, 1942, Ted Williams played left field for the Gems versus the New Britain Cremos. The kid batted cleanup, went 2 for 3, and hit a game-winning solo homer in a 2-1 contest. Then, on September 30th, 1945, the Gems welcomed Babe Ruth to Hartford for an exhibition game against the New Britain Codies. At 50 years old, Ruth put on a home run hitting display in batting practice. During the game, he pinch hit and grounded out to the pitcher. Ruth's cameo with the Gems marked his final appearance in a ball game. In 1946, the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League reorganized under the leadership of league president John Bud Mahan, who later became the city treasurer of Hartford. Teams such as Lenny's Yellow Taxi, West Hartford Merchants, and Columbia AC featured skillful ball players, many of whom had just returned home from war. A particularly talented team was the 1950 Nutmeg Dukes, the GHTBL's first African-American entry. The Dukes dominated the competition and won the 1950 regular season and playoff championships. The team's shortstop, Harold Hal Lewis, signed to play professional baseball in 1951 with the Boston Braves organization. The 1950s were a decade of growth for the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League. Mo Drabowski of Windsor, Nick Kobach of Hartford, and Joey Jay of Middletown signed professional contracts and had long careers in the major leagues. Many more professional players would follow, yet the league retained its highly competitive status. During this time, perhaps no team was more successful than the St. Cyril's Baseball Club. They won 5 championships from 1951 to 1960. St. Cyril's was commanded by longtime manager Ed Kostek. The team was comprised of local star athletes like Al Phelan, a crafty pitcher, Bill George, a veteran catcher, and a speedy outfielder named Ed Samolik. Throughout the 1950s and the 1960s, manufacturing corporations sponsored Twilight League franchises and hired personnel accordingly. Companies such as Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, Hamilton Standard, Balco Machine, and Royal Typewriter controlled the Twiloop standings. From 1953 to 1957, Pratt & Whitney won a total of 6 regular season and playoff championships. They were led by their manager and former big leaguer, John Bunny Roser. Prominent players for Pratt & Whitney included Paul Chacon, a strong-hitting outfielder, and Parker Swan, a commanding pitcher. Soon thereafter, Hamilton Standard outdid their aircraft rivals by winning 8 league titles from 1955 to 1966, behind their catcher, Wally Widholm. In 1964, the Moriarty Brothers franchise began their domination of the Hartford Twilight League by winning their first regular season title. The club was sponsored by a car dealership owner and GHTBL Hall of Famer Matt Moriarty of Manchester, Connecticut. Nicknamed the Comets, Moriarty's roster was stacked with professional ball players. The Comets were steered by pitchers like Pete Sala, Lev Spencer, and John Serafini. Standout hitters included Bob Carlson, Jim Bilasano, Leo Villius, Rich Reardon, and their MVP player-manager Gene Johnson. Moriarty Brothers Dynasty holds an all-time Hartford Twilight League record of 28 total titles. Gene Johnson would become a cornerstone of the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League. His dedication to the league was unparalleled, compiling a record of 57 years as a player and manager. Johnson entered the league with St. Cyril's in 1953 while attending Manchester High School at the age of 17. He chased his dream to play professional baseball, signing with the New York Giants in 1955, and embarked on a 7-year minor league career. In 1962, Johnson was playing in the Milwaukee Braves organization when he got demoted to their Class B affiliate despite a .315 batting average. Rather than report, Johnson returned to Connecticut to raise a family with his wife Helen. Johnson's professional days ended, however his Hartford Twilight career resumed immediately. He rejoined Moriarty Brothers and assumed the role of player-manager in 1962. The franchise was the class of the league for 3 decades before being rebranded Newman Lincoln Mercury. Overall, Gene Johnson won 34 GHTBL championships, 5 batting titles, and was named Player of the Half-Century in 1982. His quick bat, glove work at third base, and competitive attitude allowed him to play baseball well into his 50s. Johnson even made an appearance in a game at 75 years old, when his team needed an extra player. He passed away on November 10, 2014, at the age of 77. During the 1970s, the Bristol Cassins challenged Moriarty Brothers as the league's top team. The Cassins conquered the standings from 1974 to 1978 under the leadership of their sponsor, Don Cassin, and their manager, Joseph Lowery. The club's most valuable player, Luke Lambolet, guarded third base, and their ace on the mound was Michael Beaudoin. Bristol's lineup included Robert Duke Snyder, Dave Chacon, Jim Ziogas, and Dave Raponi, who intimidated opposing pitching. The Cassins won a total of 4 GHTBL championships and were one of the league's best hitting teams. Back in 1966, Frank McCoy Sr. formed, sponsored, and managed the Vernon Orioles. McCoy, a Hartford attorney and later a 4-term mayor of Vernon, managed the team until 1998. Known as Mr. Vernon Oriole, McCoy served as GHTBL vice president until his passing in 2010. Players like Alan Putz, Joe Colaci, and Steve Krajewski were a few of the great Vernon Orioles throughout the years. Thanks to McCoy, the Vernon Orioles are the longest-running franchise in league history. Nowadays, the Orioles are managed by one of McCoy's former players, Jack Sepitelli. The 1980s brought about metal bats, as well as another power-hitting dynasty. Also known as the Caps, the Newington Capitals entered the Twilight League in 1982 and found fast success. The Caps won 5 playoff championships in 6 years. The club gave up very few runs behind professional-caliber pitchers Jim Snedeker, Mike Schweihhofer, and Dave Sacco was the team's player-manager as well as most valuable player. A lineup of sluggers included Scott Cormier, Mike Magnifico, Gino Caro, and Dave Rose. By the end of their GHTBL run in 2001, the Newington Capitals had captured 14 league titles. Two other GHTBL franchises of the 1980s were laden with talent. Meriden-based Cat Sports Shop fielded 2 notable big leaguers, Rob Dibble and Bernie Williams. The club achieved championships in 1981 and 1982, led by their manager Dave Gaffney and captain Dave Katz. Meanwhile, Middletown-based Malov's Jewelers played host to Baseball Hall of Fame inductee Jeff Bagwell before he was drafted. Behind their sponsor Buzzy Levine and their manager Jay Hickey, the Jewelers had a championship year in 1986. The team featured top collegiate players such as Doug Elliott and Tom Banner. Since 1976, Tom Abruzzi has managed the same GHTBL franchise. He initially managed Society for Savings Bank with his father Mike Abruzzi. They fielded strong teams rostered by the likes of Mark Reamer, David Gale, and Kevin Giras. Society for Savings eventually became Bank of Boston and then People's Bank in the summer of 2000. The franchise has amassed 15 regular season and playoff championships. The Bankers have recruited and advanced numerous professional players to and from the GHTBL year after year. With Abruzzi at the helm, People's United Bank remains a perennial contender. The summer of 2004 marked the 75th anniversary of the GHTBL. That same year, the Bristol Merchants began their run of success, winning a total of 9 championships in 6 years. The league's Meriden-based franchise, now the Record Journal Expos, have earned 4 titles since 2006. From 2011 to 2013, the Ferguson Waterworks franchise, led by their captain, Greg Anino, achieved 3 consecutive playoff championships. In 2015, Gene Johnson's longtime franchise, then named Foss Insurance, won one last playoff championship in his honor. The same Foss Insurance franchise has since taken on a new sponsor in Rainbow Graphics of Manchester. In recent years, the Vernon Orioles have proved to be the league's top club. Featuring players like Nick Roy, Dan Trubia, and Tony Trubia, the Orioles have achieved 7 consecutive championship seasons. The South Windsor Phillies joined the league in 2018, managed by GHTBL alumni Ron Pizzanello and Gary Burnham Jr. In 2019, the league welcomed back Mark Levine as general manager of Malov's Jewelers after a 25-year hiatus. The East Hartford Jets have competed in the GHTBL since 1970, winning a total of 5 league titles, including a playoff championship in 2020. 2021 will mark the 92nd year of the Twilight League. 10 teams will compete for a league title, and the rest will go down in history.